because what may be known of God is manifest to them, for God has shown it to them. We can know without Jesus Christ what God thinks and how he is. We can look at a tree and say, why is there a tree there instead of no tree at all? There must be a God that created it. And then we can discern things about God apart from Jesus Christ. We can discern that God is loving because we love. We can discern that God is truthful because we get angry when people lie to us, and therefore there must be an ultimate standard of truth. The same is true with righteousness, with justice, with all of these things. We know what God's characteristics must be like just simply by saying there's a tree, and from that tree we can deduce that there is a creator, and from that creator we can look around us and we can think on these things. Now, how do I know this? It's because the ancient philosophers discern things about God which are correct. And Paul even quotes some of them in the book of Acts when he's speaking at the Areopagus in Acts 17. He is saying, this is what God is like, and you know it intuitively. God is written on our hearts. He's written in our minds. Who was it? Voltaire or somebody said there's a God-shaped vacuum in every man. Might not have been Voltaire. I don't know who said it, but he was right. We know intuitively that there is a God. Now, I'm not saying that we can know God without Jesus Christ, but we can know things about God. We can only know the specific revelation of God through Jesus Christ. The tree is known as general revelation. Jesus Christ and his word, which tell us of him, is specific revelation. And without this book, without the Bible, and without the writings of Paul and the other apostles and the prophets of old, we can know nothing about God apart from the tree and apart from our own rational thinking, which does not help us to attain God. It only condemns us because we don't know how to get to this unseeable God. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen. Well, there you go. I was just saying that, is that we can look at a bumblebee and we can say, this is a God of wisdom. Look at what he's done. We can taste the honey from the bumblebee and we can say, God is a God of love because he's given us this wonderful tasting thing. And then we can think more about, he gave us taste buds so that we could taste the honey. And everything is so complex, but everything is so perfectly written together that we can know things about God simply by looking at nature. And it's the nature that actually condemns us, because here we go about our lives and we don't continuously thank him for the things that he's provided and think on him. Instead, we suppress the knowledge of truth about God in our own righteousness. And that is what leads us to condemnation. We're full of sin. Sin separates us from him, and we don't pursue him and look for him in the person of Jesus Christ. But when we do, we can be reconciled to God. His attributes are understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so they are without excuse. Paul even goes so far as to say that we can understand things about the Godhead itself just by looking at the tree. We can't attain that knowledge in its entirety without the specific revelation of Jesus Christ. And I heard a guy on the radio driving here a while ago named Hank Hanegraaff, and he was saying that you can be saved apart from a specific revelation of Jesus Christ. In other words, people can have a vision and it can lead them to God, and that we don't need the specific revelation of Jesus Christ to be saved. That is a heresy. That guy is going to account for what he said. You cannot know Jesus Christ apart from the Bible. This is what tells us of him. And we are without excuse as human beings. We are condemned already. And the only way that we can be reconciled to God is through faith in Jesus Christ alone. And what Hank Hanegraaff said, I will never listen to that guy again. And I recommend that you don't listen to him, because what he said is absolutely in error. It is a heresy of the highest order. So do not believe anybody that says that you can attain a knowledge of God apart from God's divine revealed word of life, which is Jesus Christ. And how do we know of Jesus Christ? By the Holy Bible. But it does say that because we can discern these certain things about God and the nature of the Godhead itself, we are without excuse. We have no excuse for not pursuing God in our absolute ultimate sense. We must pursue him, or we are utterly condemned. And none of us totally pursues him. We go off on our own tangents. We don't think on him and the things he's done for us. And therefore, as Jesus' own word said in John 3:18, we stand condemned already. Because although they knew God, we see the tree, we know there's a God. Atheists or supposed atheists say, well, there's no God. They know God. They know absolutely that there is a God, and they just simply want to exercise their own moral perversions. And because of that, It goes on here, although they knew him, they did not glorify him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. They darkened their hearts to the point where God just simply gave them up to their own wicked desires, and we're going to read about that in a second. They know God, they know that he exists, they know what he's like because of the tree, because of the bumblebee, because of the nice cool weather that comes at the same time each year, and we know these things intuitively, but we reject him. We walk away from him, we walk apart from him, and because of that, we are without excuse, and our foolish hearts are darkened. We darken our hearts on our own. We don't need God to do it. He does do it because he finally turns away and says, let them have their own way. We'll get to that in a minute. Professing to be wise, they became fools. How many people in academia today, in colleges and even seminaries all over America, all over the world, deny the existence of God, and yet they are supposedly wise people, but they're not. They're fools. And what does it say in the 14th Psalm? It says, the fool says in his heart, there is no God. These people stand up here and they've got all of this intellectual knowledge, and yet they don't pursue God. Instead, they say he doesn't exist, or I don't need to pay attention to him. They suppress the knowledge of God in their own wickedness and in their own unrighteousness, and God gives them up. He says, have it your own way, and they will in the end stand before an infinitely holy God, and they will be utterly and completely condemned because of their own unrighteousness. They, professing to be wise, are actually the ones that are unwise.